What's going on, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Koop'd podcast. The podcast that had maybe one too many spicy dumplings from Bonchana. My mouth is on fire. It does not feel good, but nonetheless, folks, we're back here for another episode. Your one-stop shop for talking about pop culture and how we're keeping ourselves busy in this very still much happening pandemic and so on and so forth. And this week, folks, we got a new guest dropping in the new guest just dropped this week, as I am bringing on one of my esports buddies. If you're familiar with any sort of streams on the West Coast, or I guess the occasional Among Us video that might pop up on your feed every now and then, Amanda, I'm judging by how you've revamped your social media. You're no longer the man currently known as Slep, but now you're the man formerly known as Slep. But I will be referring to you by your government name. And how do you pronounce your last name, just so I don't fuck this up?
Kriegman.
Yeah, there we go. My huncture's right.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, a man formerly known as Slep, now currently known as Jake Kriegman. Jake,
it's
buddy,
funny.
how are you?
Jake is not my government name.
Whoa!
Although it was once.
Whoa.
Does that make sense?
Twist. It does. I get it. Did you change your name at some point then, I guess?
My parents changed my name when I was not even a month old.
Oh, okay.
But they kept calling me Jake, which they changed it from.
Oh.
So it's what was the point, really? I mean, they changed my middle name as well, and that's the middle name that I use currently. But it's just a lot more complicated. And paying to have your name changed does not seem like something that I really want to do. So I just don't tell people.
Wow, your parents restarted your save file IRL.
Literally a month after I was born or something. I have 2 social security cards. Same number, different name.
Yo, that's crazy. You could totally turn into some Bond villain shit if you really want to.
I'm just gonna just start my own money laundering.
Yeah.
Suddenly they're like, wait, this is 2 people. Hold on a second.
Yeah. That's Spider-Man looking at Spider-Man, but in jail for money laundering.
It's just me pointing at myself twice. Yeah. Not even like that, but just me pointing up at myself 2 times with both hands.
Hollywood wishes they could write stories like this, but we're just giving it to them for free because we're that nice.
Hey man, that's how it's got to be. Isn't the best media based on real life?
This is true, and that's why I'm hoping. I hope I'm played by Keanu Reeves in the Koop'd live action adaptation in 15 years.
Keanu is a good pick.
Yeah, I think DH Keanu Reeves.
Okay, yeah. I think when I was a kid, people used to tell me I looked like Tom Cruise, and I never saw it.
I can, if I squint my eyes and look really fast and watch you run down a hallway, I might believe it.
I think, you know what? If you're saying that, then it's true.
See, I've always been jealous of people that have celebrity lookalikes, because I'm I'm a pretty white passing Puerto Rican kid that's I've never really had I've met multiple people, real people who look like me in real life. So I think the closest celebrity I've had to someone saying that I look like them is that have you ever seen this one video of these 2 Rockets fans doing a human cartwheel in a bar, and they start it's these 2 heavyset dudes that do it, so everyone's popping off in the bar. Everybody says I look like one of the guys in that video, and I'm just you know what, I'll take it.
I think I have seen that video, but it is I gotta say incredibly forgettable. I'll say that. I'll just I mean, that's kind of that at all.
I mean, that's kind of my whole life on the internet as it is. So I mean,
Same.
It's just if anything, it's just incredibly on brand. So I'll stick with that. Let me know in the comment section what celebrity you think I look like. Be generous. Don't be an asshole. Yeah, I know where you live, but moving right along. Jake, my man, thank you for sitting down and reaching out, to be on the show this week. We are people who have, most of the people I have on the show, a la all but one of them. They're all people who I've crossed paths with, via esports. So for the casual person that might not know who you are, why don't you let the people know what your shtick is currently, what your shtick used to be. So.
Well, I'll start with where I used to be, I guess. So I was kind of an up-and-coming Smash Ultimate commentator, did some pretty big events, and had some kind of a lot of momentum going behind me. And then COVID happened, and I lost all of it. Not that I didn't strive for it, because I literally basically what happened was when COVID started, I said to myself, I don't need money from these gigs. There are people out there who are doing these gigs for money and they really want to make something out of this. I had a full-time job at the time. And I was like, you know what? Unless someone reaches out to me specifically and asks me to do an event, which it happened, I think twice or 3 times. And otherwise, I'm not going to do it. And even when people did do it and like reached out to me and they went to pay me, I would just tell them either don't pay me or like donate it or something like that because I don't need it. And so now I need it, but it's a little different. Now I could use that money, but no, at the time it just didn't make sense for me to be doing that. And so what I was focusing on then was kind of like a community that I was building with my streams and content creation, kind of ramping that up. And I just kind of slowly drifted away from Smash. And I kind of I haven't played outside of like one of my buddies from back home who I'm like best friends with, and he brought his Switch to like come on vacation, and he's like, "You want to play Smash?" And I was like, "All right." So I played like single Joy-Con random, and it was just like clapping cheeks, And so, but I haven't played in like 2 years. Otherwise, like pretty much since the pandemic started, I haven't really played.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm not into it. I don't know what it is. I'm still obviously very involved in the community and like, kind of a more social way. But I'm not commentating. I'm not playing in tournaments. I just don't care, man. I don't know. It's not for me. So what I'm doing now is trying to start a career, basically. I'm an audio engineer. I am an amateur game developer, sound designer. I've been making music since I was like 12 years old in GarageBand. And so, obviously you can see behind me, but they can't, but obviously it's evolved a lot more past GarageBand and just like simple, dragging loops out of the right side of the program. But yeah, I mean, I've gotten to a point where I think I'm pretty good at this whole thing. Not necessarily the music side, but the sound design side and, being like audio engineer. Basically, my specialty is dialogue. And so if you want, I can actually mess with this episode afterwards. But yeah, I basically, for my job, I work at LinkedIn right now. And so they have LinkedIn Learning, which is like their master class came after LinkedIn Learning. So,
Right.
Yeah. And so LinkedIn Learning basically is like courses of like whatever you can think of on there. And so we shoot them, produce them, and then they come to the audio team, which is like me and like 7 other people. And we process all of it through a program called Isotope. And it's really super, super easy, to be honest, but it takes like an ear for it mostly. And I do that. And I make a good amount of money, and I could be making more money, and I should be making more money. But I don't make enough money to move back to Santa Barbara, where I'll be in like a month. So,
right. See, it's funny how things just kind of come like rushing back to you, because I've been playing a lot of Breath of the Wild on my own Twitch streams, and like every time I always find it like incredibly funny when like all it takes for Link to just like remember like traumatic things that happened to him 100 years ago is just like walk to a glowing patch of grass and sing. It'd be like, yeah, I remember that time my girlfriend died in front of me. That was cool. But like, yeah. It's amazing how like like small conversations like really make you like remember things that happened like forever ago. Because you were one of like, I saw you, the last was, I think it was a Genesis right before in January 2020.
Yeah, that was kind of a scary tournament to be at, honestly.
Yeah, it was, especially given like what was coming afterwards. And
yeah,
a lot of people talk, because obviously it's one of the lowest hanging fruits possible in regards to Smash tournaments is that you go to a tournament, there's a 95% chance you're going to get sick from it. The Genesis sickness, the Super Smash, like the Con Plague, like on like Con Plague was a real thing beforehand. Super Smash Con Plague was like that's like the Delta-ist variant you can possibly have at a Smash tournament. And like, I know a lot of people I've talked to were, given if in, hindsight's 2020 and everything, but they're like, yeah, I probably definitely had COVID like after Genesis or like, after one of those big tournaments in the beginning part of 2020. And, just kind of talk, hearing you talk about like, your real job and other things you were doing reminded me of just like, oh yeah, that's right, we did talk about this stuff once before, and it's just like, that's right, it's all rushing back to me because there is those couple of months strings where I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be seeing a lot of Jake the next couple like months. It was dope.
Yeah,
And
I
then
mean, I
the
was
world
I
came
was
to a
on the
halt.
East Coast a lot, and so I grew up in New York. I guess I should say that at some point. Uh, but I grew up in New York, and then I moved to California when I was 18, and like I haven't really been back. And so when I was back for Let's Make Big Moves in January before COVID, that was the first time I'd been back really in like years. Really, I hadn't spent a considerable amount of time there, in pretty much since I had left in 2012. And so yeah, I mean that was a big deal. I got to run around and I got to eat pizza and get black and white cookies and all that kind of thing. But yeah, it's been like a pretty considerable amount of time since I'd been back there. And what was weird was that I hung out with my best friend who I was talking about earlier when I had first gotten there. I got there like a week early, and then when Let's Make Big Moves happened, you were like one of the only people that I really hung out with when I was
Yeah.
in New York City.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, I I couldn't imagine like being away from like the East Coast for that long. Like I've lived here my entire life, so it's like being separate, moving away like that, and then like coming back would like be definitely kind of weird. But yeah, like you were definitely someone I made an effort to like hang out with because like we've always like kind of been in each other's circles as like because as Smash commentators, you kind of like you flock to you. What's the expression about flocking and geese? I don't remember, but like we're you usually hang out with like a group of people that like kind of get you. So like
Yeah, birds of
you
a
know
feather.
yeah, there we go, flock together. There we go. It's all coming back. Can you tell I had too much spicy food before this podcast? But yeah, and you were definitely somebody I wanted to like make an effort to like hang out with because like like it's very rare where I get to like hang out with people from like because any of the commentators I or people I hang out with at tournaments is like yeah like we'll see each other like once a month, but like you're from Florida or like you're from like the East Coast, like there's a chance I could like run into you somewhere. Like pretty much anytime I'm like on the West Coast or like with West Coast people or like at an event, like I want to spend as much time with them as possible because I know it's going to be like a long time before we like potentially run into each other again. And thankfully it was and listen, I'll say it. This is I use this podcast as a ruse, just to uh feed my ego that I have friends. And yeah, I can safely say we're buds. And when I was reaching out to people who might want to be on the show to just like kind of shoot the shit, you were definitely someone's like, oh yeah, I haven't talked to Jake in a bit, this will be
Yeah,
fun.
I think that in our or my former your current like circle of like what you're trying to do with commentary and stuff like that, it's really difficult to parse people who are talking to you because they want to network and people who want to actually genuinely be friends with you.
Yes.
And that was something that when I hung out with you, I knew immediately that this guy wanted to just hang out and talk as opposed to like network. Because like when there's like a certain vibe that you get from people networking, and it just was not that vibe at all when we were hanging out. Same thing with Flambeau. Flambeau was very quick and obvious. I mean, we would talk about commentary. We'd talk about like we would talk shop in that way, but it wasn't like from the perspective of like, hey, can you do this for me in the future and blah 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 blah. It was always just like two people talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I really appreciated when we would hang out. And that's the kind of thing that I always would go for in general when I was around other commentators, because it was like, there are commentators that I can spend like a little bit of time with networking, but after like 20 minutes of talking to somebody like that, I'm tired. I can't do it, man. I can't. And it's a big reason why I quit is I hate the scrounging for clout that it takes with TOs and with other commentators to vouch for you and stuff like that. I hate that, man. It drove me crazy. I mean, I got there, you know what I mean? But even then it was like, once I got there, I was like, this doesn't feel like enough reward for the amount of effort that I put in to working on my craft. And, it for the most part, it was like, I put a lot of effort in to be the best commentator that I could be. And it doesn't matter because people don't care about that. They want to hire people that they know and that other people that they know, which is fine. I totally get that. And until you're at, an undisputed, this person is a good commentator level, that doesn't happen for you. But it's also just like, like, why even do applications? I never got that. Why do events even do application? Like, it's like a quota. Oh, we got to have like one West Coast, one East Coast, one Texas, and then, okay, out of those people who applied, we have that, and then we just fill the rest of it with our boys. It's kind of how it always was, and I didn't like that at all. It was super whack in that sense.
Yeah, I totally like feel a lot of that, and I'm definitely glad, because I've totally run into that same problem a lot when I'm like talking to people, because like I always want to come off as like authentic and genuine. I think everybody strives to be that. Some people are better at that than others, and I've known too many people, because I've been doing this this will be year 6 or 7 coming up in 2022 that I've been doing this. So I've seen a lot of people where they get a little bit too comfortable interchanging the words like, connections and colleagues and friends, like interchangeably with each other. And like, that's not a safe, that's not really a healthy way to like go about your business.
It's similar to like kind of how people treat streamers, like the parasocial relationships that they create.
Yes, exactly.
It's you have to understand. Well, it's also, I think there's 2 parts to it. There's that, and then there's also like, in general, I think that people within the Smash and commentary space as well aren't very good at taking social cues, which is really ironic, right?
Yes.
But I think it's less so they're not good at taking the social cues, and they're more so unable to see past what they want to see for what a social situation is. It's the same thing of like, oh, dude, if I had only hit this one back air in this set, I probably would have had enough momentum to not lose 0-2. You know what I mean? Like random stuff like that. It's the same thing with commentators, where it's like, oh, I just had a really good conversation with this one commentator, and it's like, what, you talk for like 3 minutes, and it was like, yeah, what do you think of that set that just happened, huh? Like, that's how it always was. Yep. When people would do that, and I never got that. And whenever I would talk to somebody, I was always looking for like either genuine, like, let's talk shop. Like, I always approached it like, let's talk shop, or let's not, like, let's just have a normal conversation. Otherwise,
yeah, exactly.
I hated when people would try to blend the professional and the personal in that way, which I think is like probably easier for people to do when, at a certain point, that person and you've talked to them enough, or if you've commentated with them before, you can kind of approach it that way. But when people would walk up to you like the first time, it always felt that way, where they were trying to, like, they couldn't find a way to bounce from personal to professional, or otherwise. And that was always super awkward and just really uncomfortable for both parties, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that. And like, if you're an aspiring commentator that's listening to this, like, the advice that I always like to give people is that, like, I don't think networking necessarily is bad, but try to go about it in like a more organic way. Like, don't be so like robotic and like, like you said, it's like, oh yeah, let's just like talk about commentary and like let me just like I don't know, game bot my way through this. And
it's like, man, Pikachu, pretty good, huh? Yeah. Oh wow.
here's my business card. Gotta go.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's super weird. And like I've always tried to like, and I'm glad that like I know, because now I feel justified that it works, but it's like, try to just strike up these conversations like organically. Like, obviously, if you're a commentator, you're probably going to know a lot of the commentators, and, just like be organic about it. And like, if you happen to be at a major and there's like a tournament organizer there and you're trying to like get in on the ground floor, like, that's fine. Don't like don't pester these people about it. Like, that's like what you mentioned about these like awkward like parasocial relationships and how they can get like severely out of hand very quickly. Like, be organic about it. Like, I like to let these TOs know, it's like, hey, like I'm here, let me help you. If you want a beer later, let me buy you a beer. Like, just if you're like yourself about things, and like if you're good at what you do, like, you will get, you'll get the at bats you're looking for, like,
Yeah.
and
Sorry,
stuff like that.
I didn't mean to turn this into Smash commentary.
Ah, nah, dude,
commentary hour.
dude, I don't give a shit. Because that's the thing about, like, I haven't really had, I mean, outside of Haz, obviously, I've had Haz on a couple of episodes of my show, but like, I haven't really like sat down with like other commentators in a minute, and like, it is always kind of fun to just like, touch base and let people know about like the behind the scenes. And like you said, there is a lot of there is some boys clubbish stuff that happens in the background, and I think if I'm willing to hope that given the era of like the last year we've had, where a lot of people have really upped their home studio quality, so I feel like there's a new generation of commentators that are going to be like well equipped and like troubleshooting their own audio and their lighting, and having like studio grade equipment in their home. Like I couldn't begin to tell you, like, if you saw the setup that I was working with like when the pandemic first started, it would have been like one of those memes of like like the frat boy houses where there's like fucking Cheeto bags and pizza boxes everywhere. Like, I was literally commentating on a laptop with a $40 headset I got for Christmas in a metal folding chair. And wow. Like, yeah, now I mix my audio.
That's still better than some locals were.
Yeah, dude, what's like this? So this will be a fun question. I was like asking, what's like the bougiest local you've ever been to, like Smash wise? Like, can you think of one?
Like the one that's like super comfy as far as like commentary setup, or like
I'm talking like what's like the sketchiest like commentary setup you've ever seen?
Oh,
like,
okay. Yeah, so we used to play in the Central Coast. There's a city called Lompoc, and there's a very infamous venue there that is now closed. It was a comic shop. You know how comic shops are.
Oh,
this place was no bigger than the room I'm in currently. We had, I think the biggest tournament we had there was 72 people. So you can imagine that not a lot of space for setups, let alone stream setup, right? But we did a stream setup. This tournament series was called Mix Up Mondays. Shout out to my boy Cody, who was the TO for that. But Cody, that stream setup sucked ass, man. That was so bad. It basically, there was like one of the things that I started to really harp on as like someone who ran a stream and was a commentator and also a player, and was a TO as well, was that I needed to separate the commentators and the players. They needed to be separate.
Yes.
At almost every tournament before I had started like TOing, pretty much the players and the commentators were on the other side of the table from each other.
That's the worst. Yeah. I hate that so much.
Yeah, and even worse, no headset microphones.
Yeah,
so
that'll do it.
So it's not like you could sit there and be like, okay, it's not so bad for you couldn't even like mumble to not give away like
you couldn't even do shitty like golf commentary.
Yeah, like... so what it ended up being, well, at the time we sucked as commentators as well, so it wasn't that important. But like as I got to be a better commentator, I realized that I should be talking about things that they could and should be doing, right? Or even just saying like, oh, this is working right now because of this habit or whatever that this player has. You can't just say stuff like that, right next to the set happening. But I wasn't even at that level at the time, so it wasn't that important. But a lot of people got pissed off at things that the commentators were saying during their match. Sure, you have every right to be mad, and it's always the loser. The winner never gets mad.
Yeah.
But it. And one of the big experience, the first time that I ever played on stream, this happened to me, and so I was scarred for the rest of my life. It wasn't at this tournament, but it was playing against this guy Cody, actually, our first set ever, and I was just listening to a guy who had never played Smash 4 and a Melee player who had dabbled in Smash 4 every now and then. And so when the guy who'd never played would say things, the Melee player didn't know whether or not what you're saying was actually true. So he'd never be like, wait, like that's not correct. But it was really, really bad. It was a very historical moment though in our scene, and very, very funny. But it was so bad. Anyways,
that's so funny. And it's really funny because now that I'm going through to my head and I'm just like every like sketchy like not ergonomically sound or like properly set up stream setup always happen to be at a comic book shop. Like,
yeah, I think that's not a coincidence.
yeah, I think there was one tournament near me, and the only reason I like am putting this one aside as a good one is because it was ran by one of my friends, and he like knew what he was doing. Like, so like everybody was like set up properly. The stream setup had like headsets. The commentators were far away enough from the players to where like I can do my job and not feel bad about it. And like, there was plenty of space for the setups and stuff. But like, there's been other ones where I've been to where like this guy set up like 2 Turtle Beach headsets into a headphone splitter into like an Asus laptop, and I'm just like, oh, sweet Mother Teresa. Like,
wow.
Yeah, like
honestly, I'm impressed by the ingenuity though. That's kind of impressive. I have to
those
say.
VODs are lost to time somewhere, and I hope one day I can find them. Like this local we went to, it was a monthly at a comic book shop, and every month for the first like 6 or 7 iterations of the tournament had a different streamer streaming it. Like, wow. Because we just couldn't get it right. Like it was super DIY. Like it was kind of dope, and like looking back on it, it is like definitely very funny. But then you get shit like that. It's just like I remember like I was like, oh shit, this guy's got Turtle Beach headsets. Like this is kind of a big deal. And then like looking back at it like 7 years later, I'm just like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started the org that I was running and like TOing tournaments and like being the streamer for our area, I didn't have anything. I pretty much had a Blue Yeti mic and one Logitech camera, and that was kind of it. And so one of the biggest things that happened for us was that West Side Saga happened. I don't know if you remember West Side Saga.
Yeah, I do remember West Side Saga.
Okay. At West Side Saga, there was a thing for all the regions of the West Coast. Whoever showed up, like the top 4 or something like that showed up with the most people, they got like money for their scene, essentially. And we came in like 3rd or 4th place. I think we got $200. And Bam coordinated all this stuff with us. He was awesome. At the time, he was working at Esports Arena as well. And we got 2 like Sennheiser mics. Each one was $100, and then I bought off my own dime, just like an audio interface. And suddenly our streams were like really good quality,
yeah,
and legitimately like watchable, and it made such a difference.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy, and like and as someone that has upgraded their setup like multiple times, since this thing started, like my life changed when I got like an audio interface and like, a quality, like studio, like style XLR microphone. Cause I was like, when I came up with this idea, like over the middle of like the last year, I'm just like, man, like I'm fucking bored. Like commentating Wi-Fi tournaments, like hurts my butt cause I'm not sitting in a real chair. And like, I'm like, like my biggest fear of being a commentator is for, throughout the entirety of my career is that like people finding out that my internet situation is sketchy and like my setup at home sucks. It feels like it's like bringing a girl home and she finds out you sleep in a twin bed. It's just like, it doesn't,
and you don't even have like a bed. You're just like on the floor.
Yeah.
Straight up on the floor.
It's like, it's hard to flex with like the big boys when like, you're using a Dell laptop with a chip in the bottom of it because you dropped it going down the stairs.
You know what's crazy though? I don't think that's just a thing that happens to guys, because I have been brought home by a girl to a twin bed on the floor.
How the turntables.
We made it work.
There you go. Listen, you gotta at that point. It's just like, all right.
Yeah, I'm here now. I've made the effort to be in this space.
Yeah, it's like at the end of every episode of like Keenan and Kel, where like Keenan's like, all right, give me an X thing, a Y thing, and meet me at the Z place. And like Kel's just like, like this is like, all right, like give me like these 2 things and a bottle of water and meet me upstairs. It's just like, all right, bet. But Listen, I hope you guys enjoyed this peer into, what it's like to be a Smash commentator. Sometimes, it's fun. Twin beds are sometimes involved, but
no, listen. I just say they're often involved. Often they're the cheapest hotel room that if you're being flown out or housed somewhere, a lot of the time.
Definitely
the cheapest thing is.
I think one of the the first major I commentated at, I initially went to this tournament with like no intentions of commentating, but like I got very lucky and they were just like, yeah, this guy's good, let's put him on. I'm just like, what? So I went with like, as Smashers tend to do, we stuffed like 7 people in a 4-person hotel room, and I was the odd man out and had to sleep on the floor. And, I came home from one of the nights after, I went out drinking with a few friends, and I like stumbled back into my hotel room, and I missed my shift in the bed that weekend. And I was like, shit, I got to sleep on the floor now. And, it's like 2 a.m. Everybody's asleep. I'm not going to bother these guys for pillows. So I just like resigned myself to just like, falling asleep on a pile of my laundry until I remembered I bought a giant Koopa shell plushie that weekend. And that thing saved my ass. It saved me probably years of neck pain. It made quite the pillow. So I definitely felt less bad spending it. I think I spent like $50 on that thing. So worth it though. Yeah, worth it. Totally worth it. It still sits in my room as it makes a great table ornament. But listen, that's our peek into being a Smash commentator and sometimes what it's like. But so for lifting up the old cooped up curtain here of how we ended up here together, I made a tweet this week and I'm just like, you know what? We haven't done an episode because I've done a couple of like topical episodes the last couple of weeks because there's been a lot of summer blockbusters coming out and, just some general news. I spent literally like 30 minutes talking about how Arthur is somehow still on the air and also being canceled.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So I was like looking up like news articles of like interesting things to talk about. And I caught an article by Variety that dropped the bomb that Arthur is going to be ending after 25 seasons. I think like the last season of the show like airs next winter or something. And they're like, oh yeah, we haven't made a new episode of Arthur in like 3 years. So like after this shit airs, it's like gone forever. And one of my friends didn't even know that Arthur was a TV show still. Like he's just
I didn't.
Yeah, it's just like, wait, like that shit's still airing. I'm just like, yeah, I guess. Like
that's crazy.
Can't say as a 27-year-old man I've gone out of my way to watch Arthur very much in the last like 15 years, but Hey.
Yeah, I haven't. I watched Arthur when I was a kid.
Yeah, same.
But I'm glad to know that I'm older than Arthur, at least.
Yeah. It makes me feel this type of way that I'm like barely older than Arthur.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, like that's crazy.
It's crazy that it's still going though.
The memes are I think what keeps it alive within like our like general zeitgeist because the memes are great.
I've just seen the one with the fists. That's the only one. It's just like bad.
It's funny. I talked about the context behind that episode because that's like the one episode. There's like 2 episodes of Arthur I like vividly remember. There was one episode where like one of the main characters like throws up in the cafeteria and like that stuck with me because like that's like one of my biggest fears as a child. Like nobody wants to be the kid that barfs at school.
Dude, like, I've almost been that kid before. You know why?
Please.
Did you ever have those freaks in your lunch who were part of your friend group who would mix all of their food from lunch together?
Oh yeah.
And they'd pour their chocolate milk over their tray and shit.
Yeah.
I would almost vomit. It's freaking me out just thinking about it. I hate people like that. I don't get it. I don't understand. Kids think that's so funny.
I don't get it.
Weird.
I've had an adult friend do that, and I was like, bro, stop sitting next to me when we go out to eat because you're gonna make me fucking sick, and I can't stand it.
I might call this person out depending on how interested you are in the story, but I have a friend who just like cannot stop touching things at like when we're eating food. So he'll like mess with his napkin or he'll like move his food around constantly like while having a conversation. And I just can't stop. I'm always just like, can you make eye contact with me and stop with your hands for like a half a second?
We can expose this person off air, but I'm definitely interested in that. But so that episode of Arthur definitely stuck out to me because like nobody wanted to be the person that threw up in school. It definitely unearthed like an ungodly fear in me. I was just like, oh god, I can't let this happen to me. And the other one was the one with the fists because I remember watching that episode on TV like after school one day and like the context is that Arthur's sister like took something from his room and broke it, and then he's like, "I told you not to touch it," and he just punches his sister in the face.
What?
Yeah, Arthur like punches his sister. And just like,
I mean, yeah, I guess that's like a normal thing that happens, right? With kids.
Yeah,
I've punched my sister before.
I'm the youngest of 3, and my brother is 6 years older than me. So I've been the kid sibling that's been punched before.
Yeah.
So
I'm in the middle. I've been both sides. In both directions.
You've been scrapping for years, but yeah, definitely so somehow Arthur survived 25 seasons, so congratulations. But yeah, it's been a minute since I've just kind of like sat down with like someone and we just kind of like shoot the shit about different things we're watching. I've been watching some pretty I've been like ranging from like the show is like actually like legitimately good to like I just want like the garbageest garbage on because we're like smack dab in the middle of my favorite season of the year, which is like bad dating reality show like season. Like I drink that shit like it's fucking milk at the bottom of a cereal bowl. I can't get enough of it. But I'll open the floor to you, Jake. As a you're see, and another reason why I feel like we like gravitated towards each other is that I feel like we have like similar tastes in like most things. So like, how you been keeping yourself busy? You been watching anything, playing anything? What's been on your radar lately?
I will say that as far as media is concerned, both in games and TV and film, God, this past year and a half has had nothing. Just nothing good. Like there's the occasional thing that you're like, this can hold my attention for about a month, and that's it. It's crazy. I did finally get around to watching Invincible, and I binged it. I watched the whole thing. So there's nothing that like can help you watch something all at once, like being extremely sad. And when you're really sad, it's like, all right, I started watching this show at 6, and now it's 4 a.m. and I finished it. That's what that was for me. And I was like, this is a really good show too. Like, so then afterwards, when my depression had passed, I went back and watched it again and was like, it's really good. It wasn't just like me being, wanting something to hold my attention. It was something that was legitimately like probably the best piece of media I've watched all year. I mean, Mandalorian season 2 was like some weird. I'm a big Star Wars nerd.
I'm with you. I thought season 2 was weird.
Well, okay, but this is my big question. We don't have to dive into this too much, but like if Luke takes Grogu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then how does Palpatine clone himself like he does in the new trilogy, right? And how is it that Kylo Ren is Luke's first apprentice and only apprentice?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like it's really funny because I actually was on the Disney Plus app a lot, like these, obviously given all the Marvel stuff, but also I was just kind of go back to like look at some of the original stuff that I might have missed during the Marvel crazes, and I was just kind of thinking about this today. I'm just like, oh yeah, like we're not technically getting a Mando season 3 this year. We're technically getting the Book of Boba Fett, whatever you want to qualify that as. And I've talked about this with like other friends at length, where I'm just like, I feel like what made the Mandalorian season 1 so great is that it was an original piece of Star Wars media that wasn't like shackled to the Skywalker trilogy. Like I feel like it was, or like to the Skywalker family. Like I feel like everybody kind of like it was like a collective breath of fresh air. Everyone's like, thank God, like Star Wars can like move forward with story and environments and characters that you can get reinvested in, and while also having some some attachments to the past. Obviously, nobody. I didn't go into the Mandalorian expecting the Baby Yoda to be like everywhere, but like I dug it. I thought it was cute. It was fucking adorable.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, I think the thing about the Mandalorian was that like the first time around, it was so cool because it wasn't purposely, kiddie.
Yeah,
it just kind of was. So like with Star Wars as it is in its current state, it's very directed towards children.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Like
but Mandalorian it's definitely is just like the Baby Yoda's cute. That's for kids. Everything else is kind of like really dark.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love that about it. And like, the original, set pieces and obviously like the different directors that came in and put their spin on things was great. And then season 2 was more of that, but I feel like they leaned like a little bit too heavy on like past trilogy nostalgia. Cause like they definitely wasted no time with it. Cause I think it was like the first episode of season 2 where it's just like, oh yeah, like here comes Boba Fett. And I'm just like, okay. Like I dig it. I was like, all right, this is fine.
So,
and then like,
okay, again, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. So like I read books, I watch theories on YouTube, all the garbage that can possibly be consumed. It's all bad. Don't get me wrong. It's all bad. When people are always like, what's your favorite Star Wars? Like, how would you rank them? I'm like, first of all, none of them are that good. Rogue One is legitimately a good movie. Past that, it's kind of like, none of them are really that good. But having read the Aftermath trilogy, that's kind of something that they planted a long time ago. So there's a whole part where they're at Jakku, or not Jakku, they're in Tatooine, and some random guy wearing Boba Fett's armor is like, hey, I'm the sheriff of this new town. You could do some good work there if you want. And they're like, no, it's okay. And they part ways. So like they have a whole thing where that character, I can't remember his name, they introduce him this is in like 2016 that they introduced this character.
Right.
And then they come back to it in Mandalorian season 2. I'm like, that's pretty cool. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Hey.
Yeah.
Like the IG unit that Taika Waititi played in the first season was cool because it was Taika Waititi and it was clever and all this stuff. But it was also like, hey, that's like the assassin droid robot that we never actually got to see in the original trilogy. And it's like, look at this badass guy that we just have no information about. Somehow he's like one of the top assassins in the world, but he's just like a robot. Like, what's going on with that? And then you get to see it in the Mandalorian. So there were some things that were like kind of cool for like people who spend entirely too much time learning about these kinds of things when it comes to Star Wars. Yeah. Past that, whenever people are like complaining about the new trilogy and stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, it's bad. Like it's been bad. And then I tell them and they're like, oh, the original trilogy was so good. I was like, no, that's bad too. You don't understand. It's never been good.
It's like that one meme of like the guy in space like shooting the other astronaut in the head.
Exactly.
It's like well, Star Wars always bad. It's like always has been.
It's always been bad. It's just garbage, and I love garbage. So
exactly.
That's kind of just where I'm at with it.
Yeah, with my Star Wars fan, like I love Star Wars. It's been something that's like been like a meeting point for me with like other people in my life that might not be nerds. Like my dad is like very much a normal, father in his like, late 60s. But like, my dad and I really got down on Star Wars and comic book movies. So like that was kind of our thing. So, I grew up a lot watching Star Wars, playing with action figures. I still have a lightsaber that my dad bought me in 2004.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a toy that's like been within my family for years and it still works. I'm quite impressed. My nephews love it.
It's an heirloom, dude.
Yeah.
It's going to be passed down through generations.
Yeah, I got to keep it locked in a chest and keep it in a bar for Daisy Ridley to find it in like, I don't know, like 12 centuries. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up Invincible. That's a show that I watched a lot when it came out and I loved it. I actually didn't watch the first like when it dropped initially. It wasn't until my brother texted me to watch it is what I like really like was interested in it, because my brother and I like we're very much on the opposite end of the spectrum on most things. But if my brother really likes something and he texts me to watch it, I know I have to watch it. I'm just like, all right, fine. So like, by the way, spoilers about Invincible. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll put this is an editing note for myself here at like whatever 43 minutes. So don't listen to this if you've seen Invincible. But I caught it like right before like the internet started fucking spoiling what happens in the first episode.
Well, yeah, I freaking like I my experience with it was the memes. That was all I'd seen of it, and so I knew that at some point his dad was going to beat the shit out of him, right? And so I just like kind of was like sitting there like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. I know what's going to kind of happen, but I guess we'll see what else happens when we get there. But I think the coolest thing about Invincible is just like so superhero movies for me are like Star Wars without the passion that I have for Star Wars. And so it's just bad, and I watch it because it's bad, but I have no forgiveness for any superhero movies whatsoever. Loki was kind of interesting, and then it got bad. And then what's it called? WandaVision was like, and then it got interesting. I just was so confused for so long because I was like, why didn't they start with the third episode? This episode kind of makes me want to watch it. Otherwise, I'm not interested.
Exactly. It's funny because when they dropped the show, they released the first 2 episodes, because if you only watch that first episode by itself, you're bad. Like, all right, it's
what
weird.
Are you doing?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot to chew on. And even then, like the second episode, after watching it all back, I'm just like, yeah, no, this doesn't make much sense either. It wasn't until you get to episode 3 and like you really understand like the inner workings of like how this shit's going down. Like you get to see like the background information kind of fall into place. And I think what the biggest problem with those Marvel shows now is that because this universe is so big and ever expanding, like there has to be some sort of a payoff. And now that they're like integrating the shows into the movies, it's like, yeah, WandaVision's good. You get this like really cool like limited series featuring all these side characters you didn't really spend a lot of time with. But if you want to know the payoff, you have to watch a movie in like, I don't know, 12 months. Or the same thing that happened with Loki, where they going into that show, nobody knew what course it was going to take. But once you realize, it's like, oh, this is how they kick off the multiverse bullshit. And like, it's like, okay, so you have to watch the show to like understand these next however many movies is coming out. So I feel like these big universes are really like painting themselves into a corner where like everything has to be like an interwoven like nest. And it's, annoying.
The mistake that Marvel will make, because they will make this mistake, is what they did in Iron Man 3, which is where they took the Mandarin, a beloved villain, a really cool, interesting character, and made him a drunk guy who's not actually a villain. And they're going to do that with Kang the Conqueror. I just know it. There's no shot that it's actually going to work out the way that they think it will. And it won't. It's not from the sense of like he won't be who he says he is, or he's not going to like actually be a threat or something like that. But it's just like, I know that they're going to fuck this villain up, because the only person who has done a Marvel villain in my brain, at least, that I cared about was the original Sony Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire. And I was like, these villains are cool. And I mean, well, okay, Spider-Man 1 and 2. Let's not talk about Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, let's not talk about
we don't need to talk about the symbiote. Like, we can leave that alone.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about Topher Grace from That 70s Show.
God.
You need to tell me Eric Foreman, I need to be afraid of this guy? Like, come on. Like, what are we doing here? No, but I totally agree with what you're saying. And like, I hope that they don't go that path with Jonathan Majors, because he acted his ass off. And I've been putting off Lovecraft Country for like months because I wanted to watch other garbage. And like, whenever I'm in the mood to watch like a serious show, like I have to like space out like the months before I watch something else like slightly more serious. Because I just watched Mayor of Easttown. I binge watched that show on HBO Max. Fucking loved it. It was great. I'm a sucker for murder mystery stuff. It's like one of my guiltiest pleasures. I highly recommend. Okay. Like,
I love murder mysteries too.
I watch it. For the love of God, watch it. It's I really like it.
Here's the kind of murder mysteries I like. I've been watching The Mentalist over for the 5th time or something like that.
Oh my God, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
I love that show. That is a great show. I am such a big fan. That show, and we've been watching a show called Death in Paradise. It's British TV. It takes place in a fake island in the Caribbean. It's filmed on Guadeloupe, but it's just like murder mysteries with like a guy who's been shipped from London and is now like the chief of police in this small town. And all he's got around him are, these like really cool and interesting characters. And then usually this guy is like the least interesting person on the screen at any time. And their accents are all so funny because they hired maybe like 4 people who are actually from Guadeloupe, and all the other people are from London and are doing like Caribbean accents. There's one guy in particular who just nails it though. You would never think that he was from London. And he's so interesting. He's like so emotive and weird. He's great. But I love those kind of junk, like, not, what's the word for it, where each episode is not necessarily like continuous with
like,
the story,
like an anthology series or something like that.
No, I can't. There's a word for it. I can't remember. But yeah, it's basically like each episode you can watch without knowing what happened in the last.
I gotcha. That's sick though.
The Mentalist is kind of like that sometimes, but at other times it's like there's like an overarching thing. But it's probably one of the things I like the most about the Mentalist is that it's like there is this overarching story of like Red John, the serial killer, behind like I think it's like 10 seasons, right? But each episode, maybe one thing happens that relates to it, and then occasionally there's like a big Red John episode or something like that, right?
Right.
But for the most part, it's just crap TV, and that's what I love. And the other thing is like I'm such a piece of shit contrarian that whenever someone says like you need to watch this or it's like highly recommended on social media, I'm always like, no, it's probably bad. And then I put it off, and then I end up watching it like 3 years late, and I'm like, this is pretty good. Like Game of Thrones, I watched the whole thing through at once because I didn't watch any of it when it was going on, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty good.
I've still not seen any of it, so I'm with you. It's
pretty good. And then everyone complains about the last season always, and I'm like, I don't know. It says to be like all these people were waiting like 3 years for this last season, right? And I just come in and I watch it. I'm like, yeah, okay, no, this kind of tracks a little bit. It's a little weird, but it makes sense to me. I watch it all at once, so I don't know.
That's funny, dude. Yeah. That's good. That's so funny. Yeah, like I'm definitely like that with like certain medias as well. Like when Frozen first came out, like I didn't watch it for like I think like 8 months or like almost a year after it came out, and then like I could rent it for free on like Stars or like one of those like on demand movie channels, and I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. I'll see how I feel. I'm just like, oh wow, that was pretty good. Like it's like you said. So like, but listen, I definitely like hate to be that guy where it's just like, yeah, like you should really watch the show, but like I think watch the first episode of Mirror View Channel. Let me know what you think because I really liked it.
Okay, I think I have HBO. If I don't, I'm sorry. It won't happen.
It's fine. We'll figure it. That's fine. Understandable. There's way too many streaming apps, but
yeah.
I gotta say, out of the apps that I've been using lately, HBO Max and Paramount Plus have been like heavy lifting, like my general like peak of hyperfixation right now. Because obviously, I watch a lot of, I like to watch a lot of how do I put this? Like shitty MTV shows from like the mid 2000s as like comfort television. So like Paramount Plus is great. Like it has. So I didn't think I could so easily go from like, I don't know, what's an example? Like I could watch like Silent Library and then like go back to like watching like, 3 seasons of Bar Rescue on a Sunday. 'Cause like that's exactly like what my brain wants at that time. But I have something I've been really like into this week. I'm almost done with it. I've been watching Jellystone on HBO Max, which is like it's from the creator of Chowder, the cartoon Chowder.
Yeah.
And it's essentially just Chowder with like Hanna-Barbera like property characters.
That's cool.
It is so fucking funny.
What's it called?
Like it's called Jellystone.
Jellystone. Okay.
Yeah. So like it's created by C.H. Greenblatt, like the guy that created Chowder. He voices a handful of characters in the show. And there's just something about these like classic cartoon characters and like this like really like, slapsticky, like wildly animated like style. And it's just really funny. It works. Like it's what Scoob should have been, but like wasn't because it was just like
what cartoons did you grow up with? Because I feel like that's like those Hanna-Barbera cartoons are a little old for you.
So there is a reason behind this. So I obviously like I watched like a lot of your like classic. If you're like within our age group, I watched like a lot of SpongeBob growing up, a lot of the Fairly Odd Parents, Jimmy Neutron, like a lot of cartoons like that. But whenever I would stay with my grandmother, which would be very often, my grandmother refused to let me watch those cartoons in her house. She was like, no, those cartoons are weird. These are cartoons. So my grandma would only let me watch like the Flintstones, the Jetsons,
Boomerang.
Like, yeah, she'd let me watch Boomerang. And that's all. So that would be like our thing together. So I watched a lot of these like, like Yogi Bear cartoons. And like, I watched a lot of like, you know, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, like, you know, the whole 9 yards of stuff like that as a kid growing up. And then, you know, I obviously, in conjunction with that, I watched a lot of Scooby-Doo, which, like, I still watch a lot of. Like, I love Scooby-Doo. It's like one of my, it's a great comfort show to me. So, like, that's why I got, like, so, like, hyped on this, because, like, you know, I watched Scoob when it came out, like, earlier this year, and I was like, man, that was a bad fucking movie. Like, it was not good whatsoever. Because, like, I like the concept of trying to, like, like, extended universes are kind of stupid because, you know, it's everyone just trying to copy Marvel. But when it's with, like, Hanna-Barbera, I think it's funny, like, that Jabberjaw can, like, exist in the same universe as Scooby-Doo. Like, I just find that hilarious for some reason. And, like, they try to, like, set those seeds, and I'm just like, I just don't give a shit. Like, like, it's like, I really can't. Like, Tracy Morgan voiced Captain Caveman, which I thought was funny in the movie.
That's funny, yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, I can vibe with that, but everything else just, like, didn't work for me. But, like, I love Chowder as, like, one of, like, my, like, favorite, like, shows from, like, my, you know, my teenage years. Like, that show just, like, it just makes me laugh. Like,
I missed the window on Chowder. I think Chowder came just, like, right after I stopped watching cartoons, kind of, because, like, at first for me it was always, like, Rugrats. Like, that was kind of the era that I was in, and then, like, a decent amount of like, Rocko's Modern Life, and, like, a little bit of, like, Angry Beavers, and, you know, like, Ren and Stimpy. Like, those were still kind of being run, which is funny. My dad actually worked on, like, 30% of those shows or something like that were...
No, get out.
Yeah, he did storyboarding for a bunch of that. Like, Ren and Stimpy, he did a bunch of stuff for that.
Oh, that's crazy.
Rugrats. Yeah, a bunch of crap. And he, like, made his own TV shows and stuff like that too, but none of them that were our generation, I don't think. Did you watch Bear in the Big Blue House?
I did, actually.
Yeah, so he did all the music for, directed, produced, wrote, all that stuff for
Dude,
Bear.
I have, like, vivid memories of watching that show before I'd go to, like, my kindergarten classes. Or
I never really watched it. I mean, I was on the set, and I know all the music by heart because you can imagine. But I never actually watched. I never sat down and said, I am going to watch Bear in the Big Blue House. That never happened for me.
Yeah, I'm a big, like, proponent of, I love the Muppets. Like, I love, like, Henson. You know, like, puppets. Yeah. Like, I love anything of, like, you know, Jim.
I watched a lot of Muppet stuff.
Yeah, I watched a lot of that too, and, like, all of those shows you just mentioned, like, were also, like, big fixtures of my childhood. Like, my parents really just wanted me to, like, shut up as a kid. Like, as a baby, I can do anything I wanted. So, like, if I wanted to watch cartoons that, like, probably were, like, a little bit too, like, highbrow for me as, like, a 4 or 5 year old, like, they let me watch things like Rocko's Modern Life. And
it's like, you don't know what's happening. Yeah. You're just a kid. You can't comprehend. So the one thing that did affect me as a kid, my dad did a movie he pitched a movie, and they eventually did it, so he wrote it for Sesame Street. It was called Elmo and Grouchland. And
yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, so the premise is that Elmo gets dragged or falls into Grouch's trash can and ends up stuck in Grouchland. Now, as a kid, I was fucking terrified that every time I'd go to bed, that because my bed was pushed up against, like, the side of my bed was against the wall, I always was terrified that Elmo would, like, pop out of the gap between the wall and my bed and drag me into Grouchland. And that is my dad's fault. That's something that I can like, literally say is because of my dad.
Dude, it's really funny. This is blowing my fucking mind because, like, that was one of the first movies I remember seeing in theaters. I think it did, like, I think when I was a kid, there was, like, a movie theater, like, right by, like, a supermarket that my mom shopped at. They were doing, like, a limited run, like, you know, theatrical release of, like, Elmo and Grouchland or something. Yeah. Like, they were showing it in the screens. And that was one of the first movies I, like, went to the movies to see. Like, I threw a fit.
Were you not terrified?
Like, I definitely scared the shit out of me.
It's so scary,
like,
dude.
It's fucking horrifying. I'm like, whoa, this is way too much for me to handle right now. But yeah, like, that totally blows my mind. Like, all those shows you just mentioned, like, ones that, like, really stuck with me as a kid. And, like, to bring it back to Jellystone real quick, like, I love it because people were like, oh, I don't know, like, this looks kind of dumb, but, like, Hanna-Barbera has, like, so many dumb cartoons to begin with. Like, I got behind it, and it's also, like, very progressive because, like, characters like Jabberjaw is, like, you know, throughout the character's history is like usually presented as male. Jabberjaw's a girl in Jellystone. They're characters of Augie Doggy and Doggy Daddy. Augie is a girl instead of a boy. So like the dynamics are like a little, the dynamic of like a father and daughter are like very to me like more interesting than like a father and son in like a show sort of setting. And it's just funny. Like there's just like multiple moments where I'm just like laughing out loud like an idiot in my room by myself. Like Yogi and Boo Boo are like they work as like doctors, so like there's like really funny like medical humor. Like it's got like there's other like famous people like littered throughout it. Like Ron Funches has a couple of voices on the show. So like it definitely like appeals to my like common denominator of like really dumb like mid 2000s like late 2000s Cartoon Network like humor with like Yogi Bear and Boo Boo. And
what was so funny about those shows though was like spin-offs have kind of never really taken off in modern like TV. I feel like people don't really like spin-offs that much, but every single new show taken out by Hanna-Barbera was literally just some random character that had appeared in an already successful show that they're just like, let's just redraw this character and make a show with them instead.
Yeah, it's weird. And like I just love the direction they've gone with it. Like it's so funny. It feels very fresh and progressive. Like it doesn't like hit you over the head with anything crazy. Like there's just I'm constantly reminded of like these, cartoons when I was a kid, and it just like, it brings me back to a simpler time where, I can just like sit down and watch cartoons with my grandma. Like they make a joke about the Flintstones like that, like where there's like a book club and like they're reading like a Flintstones like romantic novel. It's just like, it's so fucking stupid. Like but absolutely fucking kills me. Like I just needed a show like that after watching like a lot of like, plot heavy, like you have to watch this sort of episode stuff. So I'm just like, all right, let me just turn my brain off and watch this. And it's funny you mentioned like, spin-offs and like, in the same vein, like, reboots are like a big thing in Hollywood and media now. And I've been watching the iCarly reboot on Paramount Plus.
How is that?
And I gotta say, I really like it. Like it's I hate the concept of like an all grown up, like to Rugrats style. Like, they try to make things a little bit more adult or for like an older audience.
God,
and
all
like,
grown up was so bad.
It was bad. It was fun. Yeah, it was fun for like a spin-off episode, but like
God,
I remember, because I remember I just went back and I watched like the Rugrats reboot as well, and I enjoyed it. Like, because it's definitely like a little jarring, like animation wise, and like it's a little weird, and like I'm just like, okay, I kind of dig like some of the character changes, but like the way that iCarly's handling things, where it's just like, oh, it's iCarly, but like it's a little bit more adult in tone and it's a little bit more like adult in humor without like, making it, because I don't know if you read that article about like that leaked like Powerpuff Girls like reboot script that like
I didn't read it, no, but I saw something about
basically it was just like it's like how they made it like Riverdale but like worse, where it's just like, oh yeah, they're talking about like the Powerpuff Girls like fucking as like, adults and stuff. And I'm just like, who cares about this? And like there's definitely like adult situations within like the iCarly reboot, and like they curse and like they drink, they like acknowledge that they're like adults and stuff and it feels very fresh, and it's like I love the approach they're taking in regards to like, okay, like this is how you take like a show from like your childhood and you kind of elevate it without like sacrificing, the reasons why you watch those shows. And I think it works. I've really enjoyed it so far. The most recent episode that just came out was just like, it went in places where I'm just like, I can't believe the things that I'm hearing right now, but it's so fucking funny. I don't even care.
Yeah, I've never really been a big fan of reboots personally. But I also don't think I've watched a lot of them now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I never really got into iCarly too much. I watched a lot of Drake and Josh, but then when iCarly came out, it was kind of, again, it was like I missed the window on that one.
Yeah.
And like even like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, like that one, I only saw parts of it and some of iCarly because of my younger sister watching it.
Right.
And her constant need to be in control of what's on the TV. Always. And so, Yeah, I feel like I missed the window on that, and I definitely would not watch an iCarly reboot without having watched the show before.
Yeah, I totally get that. I know one of my friends recently like went back and watched the entirety of iCarly, and I'm
My
like,
God.
dog, that's like 7 seasons
Jeez.
of like, and like some of it's like really dumb. It's actually very interesting because like obviously like a big foundational part of iCarly was the fact it's like, oh yeah, it's a 14-year-old girl with a web show, and there's been episodes so far where they don't even like mention like iCarly the show, like they do the first couple of episodes, but like it feels more like like a sitcom you'd see on like NBC or something like that, where it's like it's a multicam like sitcom with like adult situations, and also iCarly like happens sometimes. It's not like as big of a focal point.
Does she do the show still?
She does, but like it's very. They explain it very well. Okay. I think like there's definitely like aspects that you like won't get if you haven't seen the show before, but like it's not like anything like super crazy. They definitely get a lot of that out of the way within the first couple of episodes, but I like it a lot. I'm enjoying myself with it. Like I didn't think I was gonna like it because I was just like, even when I watched iCarly, I'm just like, this really isn't like for me. Like it wasn't for my demographic, but like I still got like a chuckle out of it whenever I'd like have it on in the background.
Yeah.
But even now, it's just like, yeah, no, this is pretty good. I kind of dig it. Sitcoms are like one of my like many comfort things. I watch so many fucking sitcoms whenever I'm just like like need something to like turn my brain off and like do work too. So
yeah, my Twitch streams have kind of taken that over for me. So I feel like I'm always like putting a streamer on in the background while I'm doing something.
That should be the tech, because like I feel like unless it's a show I've seen before, I feel like I need to be like focusing.
Yeah, I want to watch the show. I don't care about what's happening on the stream most of the time, but I want to watch the show.
Yeah, I think it's funny when you mentioned before how you like binged, Invincible, and like before you realized it was like 4:00 in the morning. That was me, in the midst of the pandemic last year, because I like watched Community for the first time.
Oh, okay.
And like, yeah, they like put it back on Netflix, and like all my friends like swore by that show. I'm just like, yeah, this is probably going to be pretty good. And then I watched it, and I'm just like, yeah, this is good. Let me watch another episode. And then the next thing I know, because like at this time I was like unemployed and like didn't have a job, so like the next thing I know, I look out the window, I'm like, oh shit, that's the sun. Like should probably go to bed sometime. So I just love it when a show's like that good. You get like so invested in it, you like don't even care about like how badly you're gonna fuck your sleep schedule up.
Exactly. Yeah, I watched the first like 3 seasons of Community, I think, when it was airing the first time, and God, I don't think I could do it again because Joel McHale is so insufferable. I just cannot stand that human being.
He's, you know what? I've gone back and like watch it as like like dumb like white noise when I go to bed, just to, like have something on in the background, and I'm just like, yeah, this character like does not age well, and like Joe McHale, like I enjoy him more often than I don't, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, like I get it, like a lot of this like hasn't really like aged gracefully.
I just knew him as the guy from The Soup and was like, okay, this is just.
I watched way more of The Soup than I should have, like growing up. I don't know why. Like my parents just let me have like too much free control of like what I watched on TV. Like I watched like all of those like like Rock of Love and like Flavor of Love, like all these shows I shouldn't have been fucking watching because like my parents like never told me. It's like, why are you looking at this?
Well, I was originally watching MTV and just watching music videos for so long, and then I don't know what the transition was. It suddenly was like Jackass and like, Punk'd and that kind of thing.
And now it's just all ridiculousness.
Yeah, it just became sitcoms. And I think there was a certain point where my dad was like, you should stop watching this. I don't think I don't know. I didn't care enough to be like, no, I'm going to watch it. I think I would still put it on sometimes when it like didn't have anything else to watch, but it's just like I didn't care enough about like Punk'd or any of that stuff to really put in that much effort to defy him.
I still don't care about Ashton Kutcher.
God, no, I don't.
Yeah, I don't care that you didn't go to space and you don't bathe your kids. Like
it's so weird,
dude. Okay, like
because
before we wrap things up, I just want, like, one of my friends tweeted this today, and he was just like, "Why is August the month where all these celebrities are just revealing they don't fucking bathe themselves?"
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal today or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just like, what is wrong with these people? Like, did I miss a memo or something? Did an email get sent to my spam folder?
I think money just makes you smell good. And
is
so
that what
it's
it is?
not. They don't. While they're still dirty, they don't smell bad. Because somebody changes their sheets every day. Somebody washes their clothes for them. They're not doing any of the hard work other than washing their body. Like, if they could have somebody wash their body, I'm sure they would.
Oh my dude, it's like blows my fucking mind. And I'm just like, I don't need to know, like, it's keep things on a need to know basis. Like, it's already bad enough I have to like see the paparazzi like take pictures of these guys like buying like stone fruit at a farmer's market.
That said, I want the paparazzi to continue to harass for my benefit. Not what's his name? Not Matt Damon, the other one.
Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck. Oh yeah. God. All those pictures are just
oh, they're great. The one of him like putting the coffee down, I'm just like, man, like
the one of him at the beach with a towel where he's like got the belly, he's got his hands behind his back. I'm like, I want that to be me.
Yeah, like, and even then, Ben Affleck looks like a fucking fool in meme after meme, and yet he still gets to touch Jennifer Lopez.
He is a king. That is a true king.
Yeah, true. I aspire, like, maybe, like that's my end goal. I'm gonna star in a Kevin Smith movie, and then I'm gonna date Jennifer Lopez. That's exactly that's my career path at this point. But listen, we've been rambling for a little bit over an hour. Jake, my dude, I knew this was gonna be a lot of fun. But I definitely you threw me some curveballs, but I was here for it, and it was just really good to hear from you. Like I said, it's been a minute, and I'm glad you're doing well. You got a haircut since the last time I saw you, like on video format. So
yeah, my hair was down to my pretty much a little bit past my shoulders. I had it in full, not a bun, but a ponytail. Like it was long, and then I had my girlfriend just buzz it all off for me, and I was baldo mode for a bit. And that's
crazy.
The first time I've ever shaved my head. And
wow.
I didn't hate it. I thought my skull was going to be a weird shape. Because I touched my head through my hair, and I'm like, there's a huge, like, I feel like my sagittal crest, that's what this is actually called. My sagittal crest just goes up, and so I feel like my head should be like triangle shaped. But it doesn't look bad. I thought it would look way worse.
I wanted to like grow my hair out like so bad to like see what would happen, but like number one, I drove myself crazy because like I just couldn't do it, and like number two, my girlfriend was like, no, like you have to. She's like, I'm not gonna let you. Like she doesn't want me to like she specifically expressed that like me not shaving my head. She's like, no, like I like you with like longer hair. I'm just like, all right, bet, but like what if I like had a man bun?
What if it was really long? Yeah, I made a decision probably like 2 weeks before lockdown that I was going to grow my hair again, and then I was kind of like, oh, this is perfect. It just kind of worked out for me.
Have you done that before where like you've grown your hair out that long and you know what you look like?
That was the longest I'd grown it, I think. Maybe I'd grown it a little bit longer when I was a kid, like proportionally, but in my adult life, that was the longest that it's ever been, and I have had hair that long before. Yeah, so I knew it was going to be like kind of those like medium sizes, like long wavy curls. But I just I wasn't ready for how it would look in a bun or ponytail, and it was interesting. It was fun. I had it in a bun, but with an undercut.
Oh, that's sick.
And like Viking style, and I looked like a tool, but.
You look like you buy granola by the fistful at Whole Foods.
Yeah, exactly. I'm probably going to do undercut again. This has been a long time growing at this point. But before I had buzzed my head, before the pandemic, I buzzed it when we came here about 2 months. So I think it had to have been a full year.
That's crazy. I've always wanted to like not touch my hair for that length of time and just to kind of like see what happens, because like my mom is convinced that like I would just like grow like a Marge Simpson beehive, like my hair would just like grow straight up. Yeah,
it just goes
but it's like it'd be kind of sick. Like I would I would be like welcome to that. I get like a cool shape, like, shaved into my head. But maybe for the next pandemic, I'll just like let it all go like crazy and like go like, samurai man bun or something.
Do something.
Yeah,
dude.
it'll be fun. But
fun.
yeah, that's gonna be our show this week. This is a lot of fun. We covered a lot of ground, talked a lot of shop, a lot of fun stuff. I think we're all ingesting in some fun content. And listen, if you ever want to shoot the shit again, you know where to find me. You're more than welcome to come back anytime you want.
Yeah, let me know. I'm happy to do it. If you need an emergency guest, I'm
my man. So let the people know where they can find you. If you where are you at?
I mean, all my socials are locked right now. So if you know me already, I love you. If you don't, I'd be willing to establish a relationship with you at some point. However, now is not that time.
Love that. We will just we'll put a social down there. We'll follow Jake on yeah, there we go.
You can do Twitter.
There you go.
Or no, do my Twitch.
I'll plug all that stuff at the bottom. Plug your Twitch.
Yeah. So, I don't really
follow it. We'll put something in the description below. But my dude, thank you again for joining me today. It was a blast.
No problemo. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and if you guys want to follow me, keep up to date with what I'm doing, you can follow me on Twitter at KoopaNJ and on twitch.tv at KoopaNJ. Follow the show at Koop'd. Shoot us questions or comments, concerns. Let us, tell me about your favorite pizza or something. Koop'd@gmail.com. And we're available on all of your favorite platforming on, your podcasting sites. Obviously, if you want to listen to us in video form, albeit only, with a static background in our voices, you can check us out on YouTube. We're available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. If there's a podcast, service available, you can listen to us on it. So check us out, leave a review, like it, review it, download it. By all means, please. It helps a ton. So with that being said, folks, everybody have yourselves a wonderful evening. Take care. Stay safe. Wash your hands.